Dr. John Rick Seniza, Mr. Glenn Tapales, Mrs. Leah Flores Fisher, Mrs. Sarah Draper. We have Dr. Nympha Flores Patindo, Dr. Raymond Espina, Dr. Gladisa Espina Uchoco, Ms. Milagros Seniza, Mr. Albert N. Bechay, Ms. Netnet Gorgo, Ms. Tessie Seniza, Mr. Joey Dinoyo and family, Mr. and Mrs. Sarah Jane Kylo, Mr. and Mrs. Charito Barrett and family, Mrs. Erlinda Tumuka and family, Ms. Edita Colano and family, Honorable Alentin Marabago and family, heirs of Luchil Abarquez and family, Mr. and Mrs. Evangelito Polinar and family, Mrs. Selena Berbecho, Shelley D and family, Miss Jillian Alvarquez, Mrs. Princess Rambo, Captain, Barque Captain Jesus Neri Sr., Honorable Copoy Villanueva, Honorable Linia Espina, Mr. and Mrs. Jose Ekber Ortizuela, Miss Joanne Alvarquez and family, Jingle Rosca and family, Mr. Amiel Alvarquez, Mrs. Mary Claudette Tarazon, Mr. Nico Bangahon and family, Miss Ann Bohr, Honorable Coriza Flores, Mr. and Mrs. James Sanchez and family, Mr. and Mrs. Cecilia Colango and Chloe Serrado family, Mr. and Mrs. David King and family, Mr. and Mrs. Alfonso Abarquez and family, Miss Millet and Mrs. Meline Seniza and family. Our official partner, Congresswoman Emery Lollipop Wanabizon. Board member Thadeo Junkie Uwano. Sound Balloon Entertainment, E&J Drums and Container. Don Lemon of Basak Lapu-Lapu Branch and Don Lemon of Opera Calunasan Branch. New Pag-asa Pawn Shop and Cool Drains. Our Executive Committee, Mrs. Michelle Abarquez Molinar, Mrs. Catherine Ingles, Engineer Rainier Ingles. Finance, we have Ms. Izel Dinoyo. Program, Mr. Adrian Marababol Abarquez. Our Technical and Design, Dwight Mozo. Stage, Wang Ho. Our food, we have Gerald Ladao, Santo Niño Youth and the Gizo Babaylans.